Professor Helen O'Connell, a urological surgeon and Professor of Surgery at the University of Melbourne.
I'm Caroline de Costa, and I've been Professor of Obstetrics and Gynecology for the past 17 years at James Cook University in Cairns in Northern Australia. I am the editor of the Australian and New Zealand Journal of Obstetrics and Gynecology, and to present for either confirmation that it's normal, but in particular to request removal of parts of the labia minora in the process of labiaplasty. It's really cosmetic surgery. It is not done by obstetricians and gynecologists, and as a college we're very much opposed to it, but I'm not sure that we've been as specific enough about it. I think it's more so far the idea that this is removing a part of the anatomy, but not seeing it as an equivalent of female genital mutilation, which in fact it really is, because it is removing tissue. If you took similar tissue away from a male, there would be an outcry immediately. The fact that this tissue does not need to be removed, full stop, but also that it is really important for good sexual functioning for women, needs to be made clearer.
It's incredible, isn't it, that you can have in a huge number of healthy women,
young women,
this social construct that there's something wrong that needs to be fixed, rather than them becoming aware at this age of the pleasure that this organ and its associated tissues may bring, and that it's theirs, that actually it's been found wanting and exposed, by all this hair removal that's become kind of almost expected.
Absolutely.
All of these things are expected, and the fact that women are expected to look like a Barbie doll or an infant. Western literature of clitoridectomy being used for medical conditions outside the pelvis as late as the early 20th century. So it's kind of staggering stuff.
Yes. Well, hysteria, of course, was the diagnosis really for any woman who gave an opinion of her own. At one point.
You should know better, Caroline,
Yes.
than to have an opinion.
Yes. But you've touched on that point too there, because of the point of female genital mutilation in those societies which practice it now is to protect the honour of the woman, supposedly, and to guard that honour on the part of the males in her family. And it's done, unfortunately, on very young women, girls often without any form of anaesthesia, not by anybody with any medical qualifications, but for that reason. And so you've had this, as Helen has said, this practice growing up in very different parts of the world, where there's been a great fear, as it seems, on the part of males of female sexuality, and thereby of female autonomy and control of their own, women's control of their own bodies.
Yeah, presumably if you work to understand the psyche and the cultural underpinnings of injuring a perfectly healthy organ, it does seem to have its basis in the sort of things you're alluding to.
Yes.
Control over women in particular.
Yes, so following the publication of your editorial in our journal and your writings in The Guardian, you've made a podcast too that would be accessible to the audience. So we're publishing in June a review article and another editorial about labiaplasty and the fact that it is really a form of female genital mutilation. We're taking seriously the message that cosmetic surgery on the labia is not only unnecessary, it's actually criminal. And I am becoming increasingly familiar with the concept of getting clitoris, Helen, with art and science making knowledge accessible, which of course fits in nicely with the theme of the Aleph conference.
Yeah, getting clitorate is the rising force among girls and women to know this organ, this seat of pleasure. Though orgasm occurs in the brain, stimulation of the clitoris is the most likely path to orgasm and its benefits. The clitoris has been maimed physically for thousands of years, but it's also been maligned, ignored, or omitted even from anatomy itself. We need to restore its rightful place in female identity, life, and love.
Thank you.